There I was, counting out 6 crisp $100 bills on my kitchen counter every Monday morning, sliding them into that familiar white envelope. For 13 months, this ritual had become as automatic as brushing my teeth. $600 weekly to help my parents with their mortgage payments. I believed I was being the perfect daughter, sacrificing my own comfort to keep my family afloat. But sometimes the people you trust most are the ones preparing to break your heart in ways you never imagined possible. Before I tell you how this story turned out, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever felt taken advantage of by family, hit that like button and subscribe, because you will want to hear how this ends. My name is Alexa, and at 28, I thought I had life figured out. Working as a marketing manager in Austin, Texas, I was pulling in about $4,200 a month. Not rich, but comfortable enough to enjoy my one-bedroom apartment and weekend brunches with friends. That all changed with a phone call on a rainy Thursday evening 13 months ago. Mom's voice was shaky, broken in a way I had never heard before. Linda, my 55-year-old mother, was crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "Alexa, honey, I do not know what we are going to do. Your father and I might lose the house." My heart dropped into my stomach. My parents, Jim and Linda, had retired early from their teaching jobs in San Antonio, about an hour south of where I lived. They had always seemed financially responsible, living in the same modest 3-bedroom ranch house for 20 years. "What happened, Mom?" I asked, grabbing a notepad to take notes. "The mortgage payments just keep getting harder. With inflation and everything, we just cannot keep up. We are 3 months behind and the bank sent us a notice." Her sobs grew louder. "We worked so hard our whole lives, and now we might lose everything." Without hesitation, I heard myself saying, "Mom, how much do you need?" "Oh, sweetheart, we could not ask you to do that." "You are not asking. I am offering." "How much?" After some back and forth, we settled on $600 per week. It would cover their mortgage payment and give them a little breathing room. For me, it meant completely restructuring my life. The next week, I moved from my beautiful apartment that cost $1,800 a month to a tiny studio for $900. I sold my car and bought a used Honda Civic. Goodbye to weekend shopping trips, dinner dates, and my beloved yoga classes. Hello to instant ramen, thrift store clothes, and Netflix as my only entertainment. My best friend Sophia warned me repeatedly, "Alexa, are you sure about this? That is a lot of money every month." "They are my parents," I would respond. "They took care of me for 18 years. Now it is my turn." My coworker Marcus noticed the changes immediately. "Girl, where did all your cute outfits go? And why are you eating cup noodles for lunch every day?" I brushed off his concerns with a smile. Just trying to be more mindful with money. What I did not tell anyone was how I had started counting every single dollar. Grocery shopping became a strategic mission. I would walk through the store with a calculator app open, making sure I stayed under my weekly food budget of $40. I remember standing in the pasta aisle for 10 minutes debating whether I could afford the name brand sauce for an extra $1.50. But seeing my parents smile again made it all worth it. When I would drive down to San Antonio every other weekend to deliver the money in person, Dad would hug me tight and say, "You are saving our lives, kiddo." Mom would always cook my favorite meal, pot roast with mashed potatoes, and we would sit around their kitchen table like old times. "I do not know what we did to deserve such a wonderful daughter," she would say, squeezing my hand. My brother Tyler, who lived in California, would video call during these visits. At 30, he was working in tech and seemed to be doing well for himself, but he never offered to help financially. "That is so generous of you, sis," he would say, but never followed up with his own contribution. My younger sister Sarah, 26, and living in Portland as a graphic designer, was always grateful when I visited. "I wish I could help more," she would say, "but student loans are killing me." I understood. I was the oldest, I had the most stable job, and it felt right that I should be the one to step up. The first red flag appeared around month 6. I was scrolling through Mom's Facebook page when I saw photos of her getting an expensive manicure and pedicure at some upscale salon. The caption read, "Treating myself today." The nail art alone probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. When I called to ask about it, she laughed it off. "Oh, honey, my friend Janet bought that for me as an early birthday gift. You know how she likes to spoil people." Around month 8, both my parents got brand new iPhones. When I visited that weekend, they were excitedly showing me all the new features. "How did you afford these?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "We got them on a payment plan," Dad explained. "Only $30 a month each." I bit my tongue, but the math did not make sense. If they were struggling to pay their mortgage, how could they commit to $60 a month for phone payments on top of their plan costs? But I pushed these doubts away. Maybe they deserved small luxuries after working their entire lives. Maybe I was being too controlling about how they spent money. They were adults, and if they wanted to prioritize a few nice things, who was I to judge? Besides, every time I handed over that envelope, they seemed so genuinely grateful. Mom would get teary-eyed, and Dad would pat my shoulder with such pride. "You are the best daughter in the world," he would say. That phrase started to feel like my identity. I was the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who sacrificed so her family could survive. Little did I know that my definition of survival and theirs were completely different. The unraveling began on a Friday afternoon in late June. I was at work mindlessly scrolling through Instagram during my lunch break when a photo stopped me cold. It was Tyler grinning widely in swim trunks, standing on what looked like the most beautiful beach I had ever seen. Crystal blue water stretched endlessly behind him, and the sand looked like powdered sugar. But it was not just Tyler in the photo. There was Mom in a brand new sundress, laughing as a wave splashed her feet. Dad was building a sandcastle with someone I recognized as Sarah's daughter from her previous relationship. And Sarah herself was lounging on a beach chair wearing designer sunglasses I knew cost more than my monthly food budget. The location tag read, "Paradise Bay Resort Barbados, Family Vacation 2024. My hands started shaking as I stared at the phone screen. Family vacation. The words repeated in my mind like a broken record. I scrolled through more of Tyler's posts from the past 3 days. Pool photos, restaurant photos, snorkeling adventures, all featuring my entire family. My entire family except me. I immediately called Mom's cell phone. It rang 4 times before she answered, and when she did, her voice sounded weird. "Hey, sweetie, what is up?" In the background, I could hear what sounded suspiciously like waves crashing and tropical music. But maybe I was imagining it. "Mom, where are you right now?" "Oh, just at home. Your father and I are watching television." Her voice had that artificial cheerfulness that usually meant she was lying about something small, like whether she had eaten the last piece of cake. "Are you sure? Because Tyler posted some photos that make it look like you might be somewhere else." There was a long pause. Too long. "I really should go, honey. Your father needs help with something. Can I call you back later?" She hung up before I could respond. My heart was racing as I opened Facebook and searched for Mom's profile. Sure enough, 3 days ago she had checked in at San Antonio International Airport. The post was still there, clear as day. Then I found Sarah's Instagram stories. She had been posting constantly since Tuesday. Tropical drinks, sunset views, beach walks. And in one of the videos I could clearly hear Mom's laughter in the background. But the final nail in the coffin was a post from Tyler's girlfriend, Emma. She had shared a group photo with the caption, "Grateful for family time," with heart emojis. In the picture, my parents Tyler, Sarah, and Emma were all raising drinks in a toast at what looked like an expensive beachfront restaurant. I was not in the photo. I was not on the trip. I had not even been told about the trip. I sat in my car in the company parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. Not the pretty kind of crying you see in movies, but ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that left my face puffy and my chest aching. Sophia found me there when she came out for her afternoon coffee break. "Alexa, what happened? You look terrible." I showed her the photos with shaking hands. Her face went through about 5 different expressions before settling on pure anger. "Are you kidding me? They took a family vacation without you, while you are literally paying their bills." "Maybe there is an explanation," I whispered, though I could not think of what that might be. "Girl, the only explanation is that your family is taking advantage of you. When was the last time you went on vacation?" I thought about it. Not since I started helping them. Every extra dollar I had went into that weekly envelope. "I cannot remember," I admitted. When I got back to the office, my coworker Marcus took one look at me and closed his laptop. "What happened?" "You look like someone died." I told him everything. About the money, about the sacrifices, about the vacation I was not invited to. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Alexa, do you realize how much money you have given them?" I had never done the math. $600 times 52 weeks. $31,200. In 1 year, I had given my parents more than $30,000 of my own money. That vacation probably cost $8,000 to $10,000. Marcus said quietly. "Your money paid for that trip." The realization hit me like a physical blow. I had been eating 99-cent frozen dinners so my family could sip cocktails on a beach in Barbados. That evening, I called my friend Jennifer from college. She had been through something similar with her own family a few years earlier. "I hate to say this," she told me, "but you need to confront them. My family kept taking advantage of me until I finally put my foot down. Some people will bleed you dry if you let them." I spent the weekend researching Paradise Bay Resort online. The cheapest rooms were $400 a night. The family suite they appeared to be staying in was probably closer to $800. For a week-long stay plus flights, meals, and activities, the trip was easily costing $10,000. $10,000 that I had provided through months of sacrifice. By Monday morning, I had made my decision. I was going to drive to San Antonio and demand answers. No more being the understanding daughter. No more making excuses for their behavior. I was going to find out exactly what kind of people my parents really were. Tuesday evening, I drove straight to my parents' house without calling ahead. Their new Mercedes was in the driveway, another purchase I had somehow failed to notice during my recent visits. As I walked up to the front door, I could hear laughter coming from the back patio. I let myself in with the spare key they had given me years ago. Through the kitchen window, I could see them on the deck with their neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. The table was covered with souvenirs and photos. "And this is from the little market in Bridgetown," Mom was saying, holding up a colorful hand-painted bowl. "The artist was so talented, we just had to buy several pieces." "Oh, Linda, how wonderful," Mrs. Patterson replied. "You two deserve such a lovely vacation after all your hard work." I stepped outside and the conversation died immediately. Mom's face went white, and Dad nearly dropped the beer he was holding. "Alexa," Mom stammered. "What a surprise. We were just showing Mrs. Patterson some things from our trip." Mrs. Patterson smiled warmly at me. "Your parents had the most amazing time in Barbados. You must be so proud that they finally got to take that dream vacation." The word finally stuck in my throat. Finally. As if they had been planning and saving for this trip for years instead of funding it with money they had manipulated out of their daughter. "Mrs. Patterson, I think I need to speak with my parents privately," I said, managing to keep my voice steady. "Of course, dear. Linda, Jim, thank you for sharing your wonderful photos. The resort looked absolutely magical." After she left, the three of us stood on the deck in silence. Dad was the first to speak. "Look, kiddo, we can explain." "I am listening." Mom jumped in quickly. "We wanted to surprise you. The whole family pitched in to plan something special, and we were going to tell you all about it when we got back." Surprise me by taking a family vacation without me. Well, we thought you were too busy with work to take time off, Dad said weakly. I stared at them both, these people who had raised me, who had taught me about honesty and integrity, and I realized I was looking at strangers. Too busy or too broke, because I have been living on $40 a week for groceries, so I could give you $600 every week for over a year. The color drained from Dad's face. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. I want to know the truth. Right now. Are you really behind on your mortgage? The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Mom looked down at her hands and shook her head. We paid off the house 2 years ago, she whispered. The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet. What? Your grandmother left us some money when she died. We paid off the mortgage and had plenty left over. So when you called me crying about losing the house, you were lying. Dad's defensive walls went up immediately. We never lied. We said the payments were getting hard. Because you did not have any payments. Look, Alexa, you offered to help. We never forced you to give us money. The casualness in his voice, the complete lack of remorse, made something snap inside me. I offered to help because I thought you were in crisis. I have been living like a college student for over a year because I thought you might lose your home. You are being dramatic, Dad said, crossing his arms. Family helps family. We raised you for 18 years, fed you, clothed, you put you through school. Did you think that was free? Mom nodded along. We never asked you to move to a smaller apartment or change your lifestyle. Those were your choices. I felt like I was losing my mind. My choices. You told me you might be homeless. And the money you gave us helped us avoid that situation, Dad said with infuriating logic. By paying for vacations and new cars and home renovations. They exchanged a look, and I knew I had hit the truth. How much of my money did you spend on this trip? I demanded. Another long silence. About $8,000, Mom finally admitted. $8,000 of the money I gave you to save your house. Technically, it all goes into our general account, Dad said. We do not really track what money goes where. That was when I lost it completely. Do you have any idea what I have been through this year? Do you know that I have not bought new clothes in 8 months? That I have turned down job opportunities because I could not afford to take unpaid time off for interviews? That I broke up with someone I really cared about because I could not afford to go out to dinner? Mom's face softened slightly. Honey, we did not know things were that tight for you. Because you never asked. You never once asked how this was affecting my life. You just took the money and spent it on luxuries while I ate ramen noodles for dinner. Dad's expression hardened again. You are an adult, Alexa. If you could not afford to help us, you should have said something. I could not afford it, but I did it anyway because I thought you needed me. And we appreciate that, Mom said weakly. No, you do not. If you appreciated it, you would not have spent my rent money on a beach vacation without even inviting me. Honestly, Alexa, Dad said, and his voice took on a cruel edge I had never heard before. We did not want you there. You have been so stressed about money lately, always talking about budgets and expenses. You would have ruined the whole vibe. The words hit me like a physical slap. I actually took a step backward. You did not want me there. Besides, he continued, seemingly unaware that he was destroying our relationship with every word, it is not like we forced you to give us money. You offered. You insisted, actually. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to contradict him, to say something that would make this better. Instead, she nodded slowly. Your father is right, sweetie. You were very insistent about helping us. We just accepted your generous offer. Standing there on their deck, surrounded by souvenirs from a vacation funded by my sacrifice, I finally understood what I was dealing with. These were not people who had made a mistake or gotten in over their heads. These were people who had deliberately manipulated me for over a year, who had turned my love for them into a source of income. I want you to pay me back, I said quietly. Dad actually laughed. Pay you back, Alexa, that money was a gift. You cannot take back gifts. A gift given under false pretenses. Good luck proving that, he said with a smirk that I had never seen before. Mom looked uncomfortable with his tone, but she did not contradict him. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, scrolling back through a year of transactions. $600 week after week after week. $31,400 in total. This is what I sacrificed for you, I said, showing them the screen. Every week for 52 weeks. $31,400. And you spent it on vacations and cars and home improvements while telling me you might lose your house. We never said we would definitely lose the house, Mom said weakly. I stared at both of them, these people who had given me life, who had taught me my first words, and celebrated my first steps. And I realized that the parents I thought I knew had never really existed at all. I am done, I said finally. No more money? Ever. That is your choice, Dad said with a shrug. As I walked back through their house toward the front door, I noticed things I had been too trusting to see before. The new kitchen appliances, the fresh paint on the walls, the expensive artwork that had not been there 6 months ago. All of it paid for with my money while I sat in my studio apartment eating 99-cent frozen dinners. I drove home in a daze, barely seeing the road through my tears. When I got to my tiny apartment, I sat on my secondhand couch and stared at the wall for 2 hours, trying to process what had just happened. My phone rang 3 times, but I did not answer. I was done talking to them. For now. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my laptop and did something I had never done before. I wrote out the entire story, every detail, every sacrifice, every lie. And then I posted it on Facebook. I tagged my parents, my siblings, and every family member and family friend I could think of. I included screenshots of Tyler's vacation photos and a breakdown of exactly how much money I had given them over the past year. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone started buzzing at 6:30 the next morning. Mom calling and crying. Alexa, please take down that post. People are asking us questions we cannot answer. Then maybe you should start telling the truth. You are embarrassing us in front of the whole family. You embarrassed yourselves. Tyler called at 8:15, his voice tight with anger. What the hell is wrong with you? Why did you air our family business on social media? Because apparently social media is the only way I can get anyone in this family to tell the truth. You are making us all look bad. I am telling people exactly what happened. Take it down, Alexa. This is not how we handle things in our family. Right. In our family, we handle things by lying and stealing and manipulation. I am trying a different approach. Sarah called at 10, her voice small and guilty. Alexa, I am so sorry. I wanted to say something, but Tyler said it was not my place. How long have you all known the truth? About the mortgage since the beginning. But we thought you knew too. We thought you were just being generous. While I was eating instant noodles every night. We did not know you were struggling. Mom and Dad said you were doing fine. By 11:30, Dad called. His voice was completely different from the night before, soft and conciliatory. Kiddo, we need to talk. This Facebook post is causing a lot of problems. Good. Your Uncle Bob called this morning. He wants to know why we never told him we were having financial trouble. Uncle Bob was Dad's younger brother and the family patriarch since my grandfather died. He was also the one person in our extended family who did not tolerate nonsense from anyone. And Mrs. Patterson stopped by. She said she had no idea we were struggling financially, especially since we just bought a new car and renovated the kitchen. Interesting. Alexa, people are starting to ask questions. Maybe they should have been asking questions all along. The comments on my Facebook post were multiplying by the hour. Cousins I had not talked to in years were expressing shock and outrage. Family friends were asking how they could help me. Neighbors were questioning every conversation they had had with my parents over the past year. But the most impactful response came from my cousin Rachel in Dallas. "Wait," she had commented publicly. "Jim and Linda bought a new Mercedes last month, and they just put in a swimming pool. I had no idea they were struggling financially." That comment got 43 likes and 12 replies, all from other relatives sharing their own observations about my parents' mysterious financial situation. By afternoon, the pressure was building from every direction. My aunt called to yell at my parents for taking advantage of me. My uncle demanded a family meeting. Even my grandmother's old friends from church were asking uncomfortable questions. At 4 in the afternoon, my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. "Alexa, this is David Martinez. I am a lawyer, and I am also a friend of your Uncle Bob. He asked me to give you a call." "Oh, hi. I read your Facebook post, and I want you to know that what your parents did could be considered financial elder abuse in reverse. You may have legal options for recovering some of that money." "Really? The fact that they misrepresented their financial situation to obtain money from you could be grounds for a fraud claim. It depends on how much documentation you have." I had plenty of documentation. A year's worth of bank transfers, text messages about their financial crisis, and now their own admission that they had lied about the mortgage. "Think about it," David said. "And if you decide you want to pursue this, legally give me a call." That evening, Sarah called again. "Alexa, I talked to Tyler. We want to help pay you back." "How much?" "We figured out that Mom and Dad spent about $8,000 on the vacation and $15,000 on Tyler's car down payment. We can cover the $23,000 between us if you take down the post." "And the other $8,000? "Mom and Dad said they would work out a payment plan for the rest." "What kind of payment plan?" $1,000 a month for 8 months. I did the math. It was not everything, but it was most of it. And more importantly, it was an acknowledgement that what they had done was wrong. "I want it in writing," I said. "A legal contract with payment schedules and consequences for missed payments." "Okay. And I want an apology. A real one. Not just sorry I got caught, but an acknowledgement of how their lies affected my life." "I think that can be arranged. And one more thing. I want transparency about their actual financial situation. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more pretending they need help when they do not. I will talk to them." Uncle Bob called the family meeting for that Saturday at his house. It was awkward and tense, with my parents sitting on one side of his living room and me on the other. Tyler and Sarah joined by video call. The conversation was brutal but necessary. My parents had to admit in front of the entire family that they had lied about their financial situation. They had to acknowledge that they had used my money for luxuries while I struggled, and they had to agree to the repayment plan. "This is not how we raised you to treat your sister," Uncle Bob told Tyler and Sarah sternly. "You should have spoken up months ago." "And Jim?" he continued, turning to my father. "I am ashamed of you. This girl sacrificed her own well-being because she thought you were in trouble, and you bought cars and took vacations with her money." Dad looked smaller than I had ever seen him. "We know we made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Uncle Bob's voice was sharp. "You did not make mistakes. You chose to lie to your daughter and manipulate her generosity. There is a difference." The repayment plan was formalized in writing. Tyler and Sarah would cover $23,000 between them. My parents would pay $1,000 per month for 8 months to cover the rest. If they missed a payment, I had the right to pursue legal action for the full remaining balance. But more than the money, I needed them to understand what they had put me through. For over a year, I thought I was saving my family. I told them, "I gave up everything I enjoyed because I believed you needed me. I turned down opportunities, ended relationships, and isolated myself from friends because every dollar mattered. And you were using that money to live better than I was." Mom was crying, but these were different tears than the manipulative ones from a year ago. These seemed real. "We never meant for you to suffer," she whispered. But you never asked if I was suffering. You never checked in on how this was affecting my life. You just took the money and assumed I could afford it. You are right, Dad said quietly. It was the first time he had admitted any real fault. We should have been more careful. We should have asked more questions. You should have been honest from the beginning. Over the following months, my relationship with my family slowly began to rebuild, but it was different now. The blind trust was gone, replaced by something more cautious but also more honest. Tyler and Sarah kept their word, paying me back in installments over 6 months. My parents made their monthly payments on time, though I could tell it stung their pride to write those checks. I used the money to move back into a decent apartment and start rebuilding the life I had put on hold. I began therapy with Dr. Martinez to work through the complex emotions of being manipulated by people I loved. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my year of financial martyrdom. Most importantly, I learned to set boundaries. When Mom called a few months later to ask for help with a car repair, I said no without guilt. "We have savings for emergencies now," she said, sounding surprised. "Good. That is what savings are for." I started dating again and met Jake, a kind software developer who thought my commitment to family was admirable, but was horrified when I told him the full story. "Your parents really said they did not want you on the vacation because you would ruin the vibe?" he asked, incredulous. "They were probably right," I said. I would have had a lot of questions about how they could afford it. The first family holiday after everything happened was awkward, but we made it through. There were no expensive gifts, no elaborate meals, and definitely no discussions of money. But there was also no pretense, no manipulation, and no lies. Tyler pulled me aside at Christmas and said, "I should have said something earlier. I was a coward." "We all make choices," I told him. "The important thing is that we learn from them." Sarah was more emotional in her apology. "I felt so guilty every time you gave them money, but I did not know how to bring it up without making things weird." "Things were already weird," I pointed out. "They were just weird in secret." My parents and I developed a new relationship based on honesty rather than obligation. They stopped asking for financial help, and I stopped offering it automatically. We talked more openly about money, about boundaries, and about what family really means. The biggest lesson I learned was not about money, or even about family. It was about self-worth. For over a year, I had measured my value as a daughter by how much I was willing to sacrifice. I thought love meant never saying no, never questioning, never putting my own needs first. But real love, I discovered, requires honesty. It requires seeing people clearly, including their flaws and their capacity for selfishness. It requires protecting yourself even when that protection disappoints people you care about. I also learned that manipulation often comes disguised as need. My parents did not wake up one day and decide to scam me. They started with a small lie about financial difficulties, saw how willing I was to help, and gradually allowed that lie to grow into something bigger. They convinced themselves that they deserved my money, that they had earned it through years of parenting, that my sacrifices were my choice rather than their manipulation. The most painful part was not the money I lost, but the realization that my parents were capable of watching me struggle without feeling compelled to stop it. They saw me eating cheap food and wearing old clothes and living in a tiny apartment, and they chose to protect their lie rather than protect their daughter. But I also learned about my own strength. I learned that I could stand up to people I loved when they were wrong. I could demand honesty even when it made others uncomfortable. I could prioritize my own well-being without being selfish. The Facebook post that started everything taught me about the power of truth-telling. For months, I had carried the burden of my family's deception alone. But when I shared my story publicly, I discovered that truth has its own momentum. Other people began asking the right questions, applying the right pressure, and demanding the right accountability. Today, that envelope of cash I used to count every Monday morning goes into my savings account instead. I am funding my own dreams, now dreams my family never bothered to ask about. I am planning a real vacation for myself, the kind with room service and spa treatments, and absolutely no budget restrictions. And you know what? I sleep better knowing my worth is not measured in dollar bills, but in the boundaries I am finally brave enough to set and maintain. Have you ever been taken advantage of by family members who were supposed to protect you? Let me know in the comments below what you think I should have done differently. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences about family money and the courage it takes to stand up for yourself. And please share this video with anyone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics, because sometimes we all need to hear that it is okay to put ourselves first. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your kindness should never come at the cost of your own well-being.